In spite of the recent uptick in oil by rail disasters, the government's actually trying to reduce the number of regulations that are in place on oil transport. The Department of Energy is leading the way, and I have Justin Mikulka from DeSmog Blog with me now to tell us what's happening. Justin, I think what's most interesting to me about this whole issue of these oil bomb trains is the fact that rather than trying to make the situation better, we have a government right now that's trying to make things easier for the rail industry. The Department of Energy is absolutely leading the charge on this. Give us a primer on what's taking place right now.
Well, yeah, I think the Department of Energy is one of the culprits within the government and the regulators, and also members of Congress. There really is a web of people involved in helping out the oil and rail industries. But I also think, and what they're really trying to do at the Department of Energy is challenge known science about why these trains are exploding. And I think it's really helpful in this conversation, viewing it through the lens of what we know now of, the oil industry, ExxonMobil, thanks to the reporting by Inside Climate News, they had a crack team of researchers several decades ago working on climate science and pretty much figured it out, and then spent decades spreading misinformation and challenging known science, obviously because it was highly profitable to do so. And so knowing that, if you're willing to do that about global climate, certainly you would be willing to do it about exploding oil trains. And that's exactly what's happening here. Where you have, if you talk to actual scientists, and I've written about it, and there's a good quote from an oil scientist at the University of Houston who said, the idea that this isn't fully understood is total BS. And so this is crude oil. It's the same stuff that the industry has been taking out of the ground for 150 years. And they know why these trains are exploding, and they know the volatile nature of this oil, and they know what to do about it. But what has been very well orchestrated is, and what they're essentially asking us to believe is that they don't understand crude oil, and they're going to have to study it. And that's exactly what the Department of Energy has now said. Instead of using the known science and addressing the issue of the volatile oil, they're going to study it for several more years, claiming that they don't really understand why these trains are blowing up.
It's just interesting because you and I have actually spoken on this show before, on the DeSmogcast that we do. We've spoken about why this oil is so volatile. You've done fantastic reporting on this. Explain that just briefly, why this particular oil, what they're transporting by rail, is so much more dangerous.
Well, what's happened is it's the oil. Most of the oil being moved by rail is coming out of the Bakken region. It's this light, tight oil that's produced by fracking. And it has a amount of natural gas liquids within it, which is things like butane, and that makes it more volatile, which makes it more flammable and explosive. So and that's well known. But what they're saying, what the oil industry and their partners at the Department of Energy and within Congress are saying is they don't understand why this is happening. They don't know what to do about it. And just like they've done with the climate issue. They're saying that the phrase they like to use is that the science is still out on Bakken crude. It's a delay tactic. It worked very well, obviously, for decades regarding climate science, and it's working now very effectively to delay addressing the volatile nature of this oil. And at the same time, they're asking us to believe that they don't understand exactly what's going on and how they should deal with this. They do. Address and they stabilize this oil and remove those natural gas liquids before they put it in pipelines or before it put onto ocean-going tankers. So obviously they understand it well enough when it comes to these other forms of transportation. But when it comes to the trains, what they're saying is the science is still out. And another a popular approach to questions about the climate, obviously, with if you ask a Republican congressman about the climate, and they're going to start off with, "Well, I'm not a scientist," and the exact same approach has been taken here. There's a clip of the head of the Federal Railroad Administration where she's being interviewed by Rachel Maddow about these exploding trains, and she asks, "Is there something we can do? Isn't there a process where you can stabilize this oil?" And the first thing the head of the FRA says is, "Well, I'm not a physicist." And so, immediately, putting the discussion in that context, And having followed this issue for 2 years now, one of the striking things about this is when there's a congressional hearing to just address this specific issue, they don't invite oil scientists. And when the reasonable follow-up question to, well, I'm not a physicist. If someone says, well, I'm not a physicist, well, let's get some physicists at the table and ask them. Let's actually talk to oil scientists. And I like to equate it to if you were given a bad personal health diagnosis and they said, oh, you have serious cancer, would you go ask your mechanic what to do? Would you go talk to the person who cuts your hair? No, you would go talk to the expert. Yeah. And that's essentially what has happened here is they're avoiding regulation by keeping the experts out of the discussion, because if they were in the discussion, it would be case closed, because this is basic science that is known.
And so we've got right about a minute left. What's happening today? What are the latest ploys by the industry to keep these bomb trains rolling across America?
Well, what they've effectively done, the new regulations said, relied on this. We need to study this issue more, and those came out earlier this year. That got the Department of Energy involved. They are saying, now it's going to be several years of studying this issue. And so from that standpoint, it's just been pushed off. And the exact same thing is happening with the modernized braking systems that are required by the new regulations to be installed on these trains over the next 5 years. Initially they tried to strip that out of the regulations through Congress, but they've now gone back to the point of, well, we need to study this more before we install these brakes, because we're not sure whether they work. Which again is preposterous. And even in this case, the Federal Railroad Administration is on record saying these modern braking systems are a proven technology. And to give some more perspective, the braking systems used on these oil trains were invented in the 1870s. And so what the rail lobbyists are arguing right now is that there's nothing that's been invented since then that is a safer braking system, which, it's absurd.
Unbelievable. Justin Mikulka with thesmogblog.com. Go there, check out his reporting on this issue. A lot of other great reporting on the website. You can find some of my stuff on there occasionally. I appreciate that. Justin, thank you very much for being here with us.
Thanks a lot, Farron.